Hello, everyone. I am right now in Atlanta, USA for Keller Williams Family Reunion 2026. And we got the opportunity to meet a lot of Keller Williams agents, a lot of them who have been, of course, Indian citizens in the past, and now they've been in the US for a long, long time. Some people have been there for a decade, 2 decades, and even 3 decades now. And today I have with me Dennis Joseph. I met Dennis at an informal dinner last evening. Dennis, his wife is actually a Keller Williams agent, Anna Maria Joseph, and she operates out of Keller Williams North Atlanta office. And over the dinner, I got talking to Dennis, and we started talking about senior living in the country and its emerging need, and how so many top developers across the country in India, right from Antara, DLF, and many others, they are looking at senior living very, very seriously. I realized that Dennis has been in the healthcare business for almost 2 decades. And for the last almost half a decade, he has been actively involved in senior living, assisted living in the US. So, the kind of knowledge that he has about senior living, assisted living, which is a very, very dominant concept here in the US, I thought, you know what, why don't we do a podcast? Why don't we do a Q&A session, an informal Q&A session, and tell people more about it. So Dennis, we'll start with a quick introduction about yourself. Just let people know what have you been doing in the healthcare segment and the senior living segment, and of course about your roots in back in India as well. Where are you from?
Yeah.
So that we can connect the dots and then get talking about senior living.
Absolutely. First of all, welcome to Atlanta.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been my home for over 10 years now.
Wow.
I'm originally from Kerala, but I
Okay.
grew up in Delhi.
Oh, wow.
I would say my roots are back in Delhi.
That's a great combination, north and south.
Yeah. Grew up in South Delhi,
Right.
and I moved to the States when I was 18 years old. I came here for college,
Okay.
and I've been in healthcare ever since I graduated college.
Wonderful.
And so I would say that's counting on almost 25 years.
Wow. 2.5 decades.
Yeah, mostly on the technology side. So been in pharma, medical devices, etc. But a lot of the care, at least in the United States, is moving outside of the hospital,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And given the large demographic of
Mhm.
people retiring,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of innovation, a lot of activity going on
Mhm.
in what we call post-acute, right? Which is
Of course.
mostly in senior living, assisted
Mhm.
living, etc., etc.
Okay.
And so I've been operating in that space for the last several years,
Right.
and it's been fairly exciting, right? And I got into it during COVID, and since then there's been a lot of innovation in the market. So happy to talk about it.
Absolutely. In fact, I think the only way we were introduced to the concept of senior living is through the Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
That's the only way we realized that there is something called senior living as well.
Mhm.
Because I'll be honest, in India, uh, even till date, it is considered more like a taboo because people confuse senior living residences with old age homes.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of awareness which is needed in the market. I feel India is that one market which has the most amount of need at the moment for quality senior living projects. And the good part is the developers and some of the top developers like DLF, they've recently announced that they're going to be coming up with a very large senior living project in the heart of Gurgaon, which is right next to Delhi. This is actually the need of the hour. I now see many other big developers also who will be looking at this segment very, very seriously. But before we get into that, US has been a pioneer in the senior living segment, right? I think it's been many, many decades that senior living, the concept has been very much prevalent here.
Mhm.
And I'm sure it has developed and progressed over the years. So, was it a taboo over here in the US as well? I know there is a lot of cultural difference between the way we look at families and the way people in the US look at families, right? Over here, the families, of course, they live apart after a certain age. I would say, parents live separately, kids live separately. But in a country like India, wherein the joint culture is so much prevalent, even till date, of course, now it's getting separated with the nuclear culture. But was it a taboo ever in the US? And how's the progress been since you've been involved in this space?
Yeah, so I think one thing I would say is the need was always there.
Mm-hmm.
right? I think the recognition of that need in India is coming about now,
Absolutely.
right? Because the aging population always existed,
Yeah.
right? And that was the same case here in the United States, right? The aging population always existed. I would say the taboo component wasn't as high as it was in India, but it evolved because it was very need-based.
Right.
Right? And the needs change as you go through different phases of life.
Correct.
Right? So for example, here, it started off with, for example, the 55 plus community. Right? They're fairly active, but they're gone into a different phase of life. They want to stay active,
Correct.
but they still need some help, right?
Absolutely.
And they want the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
So here, when we think about senior living, we think about different care settings. And those care settings are based on how much help you need.
Right.
Right? So you start with the 55 plus, then you transition over to independent living.
Okay.
Then you go into assisted living.
Okay.
And assisted living is where you need help with things like, daily living.
Got it.
Right? You need somebody to help you bathe,
Right.
to get up in the morning, get
Right.
dressed,
Right.
or somebody needs to wheel you into a place where you can have your breakfast.
Of course.
So that's where assisted living comes into play.
Right.
But as your conditions get worse, you might get into a skilled nursing facility or a long-term care.
Okay.
And then all the way on the other end of the spectrum, you have palliative and hospice.
Of course.
So all these transitions are dependent on your medical conditions and also your needs and how they progress.
So are all these different phases of senior living, assisted living, are these available at a single premises?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not.
It's not. Okay.
Yeah. And so there is a physical transition from one facility to another facility.
Okay.
There are some facilities where you might have independent living and assisted living together,
Right.
right? But it also depends on how you staff these facilities.
Right.
Because healthcare operations
Right.
is a big part of it,
Right.
right? Yes, you need to be independent, you need to live your life, you need to be comfortable with those around you.
Right.
But the day-to-day healthcare operation is very important. And so the amount of healthcare operation or how intensive it is for independent living is not as much as assisted living, and is definitely not as much as skilled nursing facility,
Got it.
right? So the staffing needs are different, the healthcare requirements are different, and that leads to facilities that are equipped in different ways,
Right.
right? And sometimes it's possible to bring all of those under one roof. Most of the times it's very hard.
Right. See, when I look at the senior living concept, and when the developers started introducing that in the country, the first thought that I had is immediately the NRIs.
Yeah.
Right. The NRIs living in the US, they've made a good life in the US, they've made good money. Now, the only thing which is always a challenge with a lot of NRIs families that I also know, and some of them are within the family itself, they always have a struggle to kind of take care of their parents back home.
Yeah.
Right. They always have a struggle to kind of frequently travel back home in case of any illness, and they always struggle to kind of keep all sorts of help for the parents, whether it's drivers, nurses, maids, cooks, or whatever. Irrespective of the amount of money that you've made, managing these unorganized people who are working for you at your residence back in India is a big challenge, right? Since the concept is now prevalent in India and it is now stamped, endorsed by some of the top real estate developers in the country, do you think markets like US, markets like UK, which have a very dominant Indian population, who have the money as well to kind of buy those residences back home for their parents, do you think there'll be demand for senior living in the US? Because I personally feel it's a big opportunity. We've been selling real estate for the last 2 decades now. This is that one section of real estate wherein we feel we are in a way giving back to the community.
Yeah.
Right. We're not just selling brick and mortar real estate, but we are actually helping 2 families live peacefully and with less tension of worrying about each other's health and well-being. What do you feel?
Yeah, it's a very complicated answer.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you think about families here in the US, right, a lot of times seniors, they have kids who are working.
Right.
Right. And so they go to work in the morning, they come back at night or evening, and you have some people who are working from home. but they're still fairly busy, right? And so the parents are dependent on the kids, and labor costs here are skyrocketing.
Of course,
right? And so from that perspective, hiring all that help,
right,
to be at home, to be at the disposal of your parents is very hard. So that's really challenging.
I agree.
But the other piece is, even if you hire that help, it needs to be trained help, right? They need to be trained not just in terms of taking care of the day-to-day needs. Different patients or parents who have different conditions have different needs.
Yeah.
A parent who might have a primary diagnosis of congestive heart failure is different from somebody who has dementia or Alzheimer's.
Right.
Right? And so there are day-to-day things that you have to do for these parents that's really hard to stay on top of.
Of course.
So I'll give you a classic example, which is, when you think about dementia patients, and that happens even in the senior living facilities here. So I'm talking about, from experience, which is a simple thing is they forget to drink water. Right? And during the day, when that happens multiple times, they tend to get dehydrated. And that dehydration could lead to somebody just being very lightheaded, which could lead to a fall. And we know that how these seniors could be just one fall away from a crisis.
I mean,
right?
Fall is, I think, one of the reasons of the biggest reasons why
exactly.
most of the mishappenings they're happening.
Exactly. And so that's one downstream effect. The other downstream effect is urinary tract infection.
Okay.
Right? So they would contract UTI, and now they're getting tested. Now they're being prescribed antibiotics.
Right.
And if you see, there's this domino effect that happens.
Right.
Because something simple got missed.
Right.
Even something as simple as getting somebody off from the bed. I had a certified nursing assistant at a senior living facility, and I shadowed these nurses and these clinicians often just to understand the ground realities. And she was telling me the technique of getting a senior up from their bed onto their 2 feet.
Okay.
And it's not easy.
Of course.
There is a very specific technique that they use, right? And there is a process. And so you cannot expect your kids to be trained on all of that.
Absolutely.
Right? Missed medications. People with congestive heart failure. We had a patient who was at home, and very innocent, right? They had a bag of potato chips lying around. So they were hungry. They saw the potato chips. They opened the bag and they ate it. Right? Well, what they didn't realize is potato chips full of salt, sodium.
Oh my God.
Right? So what does sodium do? It retains water.
Yep.
Right? So water started getting retained inside of their body, and they started suffocating. They started, they were congested. And so the kids are thinking, oh, this is another congestion, just give them some minor medications and they'll be fine. What they didn't realize is that water is backing up into their lungs.
Right.
And that patient had to be taken to the ER.
Right.
Why? Because of a simple bag of potato chips.
Right.
Right? And so there are all these little things that really, really matter. Right? And so from that perspective, there is definitely a need from a clinical standpoint.
Of course.
But here's the other big thing, which nobody talks about. So I'll give you an example. I had a patient in one of the assisted living facilities. He was a military man, right? So he had spent almost 15 years in the Army.
Right.
Served a couple duties for the US.
Okay.
And one day he and I were sitting down over breakfast, and he was telling me that he was the hero of the family. Right? And everybody looked up to him. And he got to a point where, his conditions got worse.
Got it.
And, he was saying that he was needing his son or his daughter-in-law to change his adult diaper every day.
Wow.
Right? So when we talk about things like dignity,
of course.
And so he was feeling bad that his kids had to do that.
Right.
And he just didn't feel good about himself.
Of course.
And so, he said something that was very impactful for me, which is, he said, I want my son to be my son.
Right.
Not my nursing aide.
No.
Right? Let the nursing aide do what a nursing aide does, so that I can see my son as my son.
Correct.
Right? And so that dignity, we talk a lot about abandonment.
Right.
And I feel it's usually one-sided. It's from the kid's side. People talk about the kids feeling like they've abandoned their parents.
Right.
I feel few people talk about how do the parents feel about depending on their kids.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And so some of the people, at least, again, I'm representing the population here in the US, right? Some of these people, they live in these facilities to preserve their relationship with the kids.
Of course.
because they're like, I don't want to be dependent on them on a day-to-day
It'll
basis.
keep getting worse day by day otherwise.
Right. And so when they come, when they visit, when I get on FaceTime, I like to be my best self.
Yeah.
Right. I want to have a laugh with my family and not worry about the fact that, okay, I need to go to the bathrooms, I need their help.
Correct.
So on and so forth.
Correct.
So that demand is there. Right. Where the cross-border demand comes in is that emotional connection. Right. And so these people at that age, they want very simple things. They want connection.
Right.
They want home-cooked food, right? Ghar ka khana.
Which is so important.
They want to be able to share stories in their own language.
Yeah.
Right? And they want to be able to share stories with other people who have gone through similar experiences.
Correct.
And so when you think about that emotional connection,
and maybe
emotional
they also
bridge,
get into a community wherein they can speak to the so-called their own people.
Their own people, exactly.
Yeah.
And who've gone through similar, lives, and they have all these stories to tell, right?
Yeah.
And they have time to listen to those stories.
Right.
So that emotional connection is challenged here in the US.
Correct.
Because they cannot do that.
Absolutely.
Right? And they're not super comfortable. So that's where I think there is a potential demand for it.
Right.
Obviously, you have to be careful because what you're sacrificing is also the physical proximity.
Right.
Right? And so there are ways to bridge that, but in terms of people wanting to return to the roots while still not sacrificing their clinical or medical care, and still be able to bridge that emotional gap, is probably where the demand is.
And do you think, in places like US, UK, wherein we have a dominant NRI population, is there even awareness that assisted living, senior living facilities are available in India? I mean, are people even aware about this? Because I have met a lot of clients of my own who have moved back to India because they had ailing parents, and despite whatever efforts they made in the US, they were not able to kind of take care of them, because when people are critically ill, they need assistance 24/7, right? They would need somebody in the morning, they would need somebody with them throughout the night. As you said, they would need somebody to kind of feed them, bathe them, take them to the washroom, feed them the medicines. So I have a client who moved back, leaving his glorious career in the US, shifted the entire family back home only to take care of the ailing mother, right? I know about families who are there in Delhi, as an example, and the son visits them every 15 days, right? I don't know whether these people even are aware about these facilities being available in the country, because I know there are places like Antara in Dehradun. There are places like Antara in Noida now, which has recently got delivered. DLF is coming up with something really big right in the heart of city in Gurgaon now. And with all those facilities coming in, I think the kids, especially the NRI kids, those who can afford this lifestyle, they can have a stress-free life, and they don't have to worry about their parents 24/7, because they know somebody professional, as you rightly said, is taking care of them, and not some domestic help or a driver or a maid who has been working with them for the last 20 years, right? Somebody who's professional, somebody who knows how to take care of a critically ill patient. And in fact, we have got into a discussion wherein we are only talking about people who are, let's say, medically ill or not fit. I believe even somebody who's just retired, there are senior living facilities in Dehradun which are as good as any fancy club. You would have the best of bars there, you would have the best of sport facilities there, you would have temperature controlled pools there, you would have the best of green areas there, landscape greens there. It is more like a resort living in the last years of your life, right? People after retirement, they're literally enjoying their life living in these places. I don't know whether the awareness is there. What do you feel? I mean, when you speak to the Indian families here in the US, are they aware that back home these facilities are available?
I cannot generalize,
right?
But I can represent a few of the conversations I've had with at least my friends or people in my network, which is, I think the awareness is there, and I don't know if it's a branding or a marketing problem, where the emphasis is more around the luxury, about the lifestyle. But the concern here is, hey, what happens when my mom falls?
Of course.
How is that managed?
Yes.
Right? What kind of care is she going to get?
Correct.
Right? And so, kids feel a sense of responsibility, right? So they feel that the mom or dad should stay home because if something happens, I am there to take care of them.
Of course.
Right? So they feel like they are equipped, which they are wholly unequipped for that. We know that, right? Because they don't know how to deal with it except call the ER, right? But that said, I think the trust level in terms of the quality of healthcare operations on a day-to-day basis is probably where the opportunity is, right?
Absolutely.
Because everybody knows from a hospitality standpoint, you cannot beat India.
Of course.
Right? Anybody who stayed in a hotel in the US and
we
stayed in a hotel in India. So we all know that.
Right.
So we know that. We also know that medical care is progressing really fast in India.
And it's easily available, readily
World-class.
available, unlike a lot of parts in the West.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is a bridge, which is there is hospitality, there is world-class medical care, but there is this day-to-day healthcare operation.
Correct.
Right? They want to know, how's my mom doing today?
Correct.
They want to know, did she attend that prayer service?
Absolutely.
They want to know that, hey, did she need help eating lunch today?
Right.
Did she eat the full plate or did she only, right? That nuanced care is probably where there is an opportunity to establish trust.
And only an established medical professional or an agency who has done that in the past can only help this. In fact, just to let you know, DLF recently announced their tie-up with Medanta, which is one of the largest hospitals in the northern part of the country for this senior living that they're getting. And the other senior living that we also closely work with, Antara. Antara is a brainchild of the erstwhile owners of the Max hospitals. So Antara stands for Mr. Analjeet Singh and Tara Singh, who was the owners of the Max hospitals. Of course, they've sold it now to somebody else, but they formed this company called Antara, and they have the background of taking care of people since decades now. I mean, Max Hospitals, it's been one of the most reputed names in the healthcare businesses in the country. And they are the ones running the senior living facility in Dehradun, in Noida, in Gurgaon now. And they have multiple other facilities all across the country as well, which are in smaller formats. So they have the big format, they have the small format, they have the full residential formats as well. They have care at home format as well. So like you said, they have already bridged that gap. So it's quality real estate, hospitality, plus the best possible healthcare for the family and for the seniors who are going to be entering into that. So that thing is available now in the country. So if you feel that there is an exact package available, right, all three blocks which were needed to have a proper senior living, if that's available in the country, do you think there are takers in the US? And would US agents be keen to work on such an opportunity with us to kind of educate the NRIs here? That see there are these opportunities available. Would they be keen to kind of explore opportunities back home?
I think the key word that you used is educate.
Yeah, of course.
Right? You have to educate.
Right.
Because there is awareness, but you're talking about a high-level awareness for a decision that's a huge personal decision for somebody. Right. And so from an agent standpoint, people think about senior living as the customers of senior living as the seniors.
Of course.
Right?
That's what they think.
That's what they think.
Yeah.
But it's the entire family.
Absolutely.
It's the kids.
Yeah.
Right? It's the specific situation that the senior is in.
Correct.
It's the specific situation that the kids are in.
Right.
And really understanding what is the need that you're trying to solve.
Right.
Right? And guiding them to the right path. Maybe, just maybe, having the parents stay at home may be the right decision.
Right.
Right? That's okay.
Yeah.
Right? But if there are needs, to understand what those needs are, because you got to go beyond the transaction. So agents think transaction.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
We all know that.
Absolutely.
But this is not a transaction. Right?
Yeah.
This is a huge life decision.
And it's a huge responsibility on the shoulders of the agents as well.
Right.
This is not any other regular transaction that you do for living.
Right.
This is giving back to the community is what I said.
Yeah. And you have to be intimately aware of one, your customer, which is the entire family, including the seniors.
Yeah.
And you also have to understand the offering.
Yeah.
And where it intersects.
Absolutely.
Right. And how it works.
Absolutely.
And that's where I think the big opportunity is.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you think with the endorsement of brands like Max Estates and DLF and a few other prominent names, do you think this would add value and this would make more sense with these endorsements?
Mhm. Where it adds value is the fact that they'll be around for many, many years.
Of course.
Right? Because the last thing you want to do is put your parents into a place where you don't know they're going to survive in the next 5 to 10 years.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Where it adds value is the fact that you are entrusting your parents to an organization that's constantly innovating,
Yes.
and constantly taking their service to the next level.
Correct.
Right? So yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's where it helps.
Right.
But you have to go beyond the brand.
Absolutely.
Right? And establish trust at that intimate level, so that a family can make that decision that, yes, you know what, this is first of all, you have to make them aware that this is an option.
Right, of course.
People don't think this is an option.
Right.
Right? That this is an option. The other big piece is, how do you bridge that lack of physical proximity? Right? And in today's communication age, where there's so many ways to connect, right? And especially if parents are fairly healthy, how do you maybe enable trips back to the US to spend time with family?
Right.
Right? So there are a lot of ways to address that physical proximity, because that would be a big concern for people here, right? Which is, I cannot see my mom on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Right? How do you address that? How do you develop that relationship?
Absolutely. But I think with these larger companies who are extremely professionals, and with the types that they're doing with the other healthcare brands like Max and Medanta, I think they're bridging that gap. And I think what's needed is awareness and education is what I think you rightly said. Not only to the customers, but also to the intermediaries like the agents who are going to be promoting this product back to the community, right? So let's try and organize a few webinars, right, on both the fronts.
I'd be happy
and educate not just the customers but the agents as well. And let's try and give back to the community by being pretty active in this particular segment of senior living.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity. It's a huge need.
Right.
Right. And there are plenty of challenges here in the US. And I can go on and on about that.
Absolutely.
So there's definitely an opportunity there.
And with somebody like you who has been on the healthcare side for so long in the US, and who now closely works with the US, and has a background of being born and raised back in India, and I think that's the ideal combination of somebody who can actually educate people about these senior living opportunities that we have available in the country back home, right? So let's take it to the next level. Let's do a couple of series of these educational webinars for agents and customers here in the US, right? We will try and get a few developers on board as well for the next few sessions, and let's take it to the next level.
That'd be great.
Right. Thank you for joining us, and I'm sure everybody who's watching us today, they would have get the right perspective about senior living, the way it is happening in the US, and the expectations that the end users, whether it's the children or the seniors themselves, they would have from senior living, assisted living. And as he rightly said, it is not just about a random sale of brick and mortar. It's about the array of services that are going to be offered, and the sense of belongingness that the seniors and their children might have with such assisted living. Thank you so much.
Fantastic.